Hey, welcome to the first class of Tuesday Night Beer School. I'm your host, Chad Pollins, aka Chad's Beer Reviews. Overall impression: a family of refreshing, highly attenuated, hoppy, and fairly bitter Belgian ales with a very dry finish and high carbonation, characterized by a fruity, spicy, sometimes phenolic fermentation profile and the use of cereal grains and sometimes spices for complexity. Several variations in strength and color exist. Now, there's a few words we should look at before we continue. Attenuated. Attenuated means how much of the sugar the yeast ate. So if the yeast ate all the sugar, or I don't think it's possible for yeast to eat all the sugar, but a lot of the sugar. You have a fairly dry beer, so there won't be too much sugar left over for you. The yeast ate it all. I'm sure you know what hoppy and fairly bitter means. Dry finish just means, goes hand in hand with, well attenuated. It's just there's no residual sugar from the malt there. Fruity, spicy, sometimes phenolic. Do you know what phenolic means? Phenolic is a yeast character. With yeast, there's esters, which everybody's probably familiar with, especially with like the German wheat beers. You get the you get the banana, that is the ester, and then the clove, that is a phenol. And a phenol can be a good thing, like when it's clove or when it's peppery, but it can be a bad thing when it's like Band-Aid or burnt or rubber or something like that. Actually, several variations in strength and color exist. And since we're doing beer school, we're gonna skip all the way to the bottom before we start drinking here. Comments: this style generally describes the standard strength pale version, followed by differences for variations in strength and color. Darker versions tend to have more malt character and less apparent hop bitterness, yielding a more balanced presentation. Stronger versions often have more malt flavor, richness, warmth, and body simply due to the higher gravity. There's no correlation between strength and color. Sourness is totally optional, and if present at low to moderate levels, it may substitute somewhat for bitterness in the balance. A Saison should not be both sour and bitter at the same time. A high attenuation may make the beer seem more bitter than the IBUs suggest. Pale versions are often more bitter and hoppier, not hoppy, than dark versions. Yeast selection often drives what? What does it drive? We gotta go over here. A balance of fruity and spicy notes and can change the character significantly, allow for a range of interpretation. Often called farmhouse ales in the US, but this term is not common in Europe, where they are simply part of a larger grouping of artisanal ales. Brettanomyces, that's wild yeast, which is like what they call the funk. To me, it's kind of like a pineapple kind of sensation, or locker room. It's not typical for this style. Saisons with Brett should be entered the 28A, Brett's beer style. A grisette is a well-known type of Saison, popular with minors. Enter grisette and has 25B, Saison session strength. Comment grisette with wheat as the character grain. History: Provision ale from Wallonia, the French-speaking part of Belgium. Originally a lower alcohol product so as not to debilitate farm and field workers, but tavern strength products also existed. The best known modern Saison, Saison Dupont, which is what I've got, which was your homework. Everybody should go out and get this beer if you've never had it. Was first produced in the 1920s, so it's over 100 years old now. DuPont Super Saison was first produced in 1954, in its brown version in the mid-1980s. Fantôme began producing its seasonal Saison in 1988. While style remains in rustic image, they are now mostly made in large breweries. Characteristic ingredients: pale base malt, cereal grains such as wheat, oats, spelt, or rye. May contain sugary adjuncts, continental hops, that's your noble hops, not the American citrusy, piney hops. Spicy, fruity Belgian Saison yeast. Spices and herbs are uncommon, but allowable if they don't dominate. Style comparison: the pale standard versions, let's just say versions, not or versions, are like a more highly attenuated, hoppy, and bitter Belgian blonde ale with a stronger yeast character. A super strength and pale color, similar to a Belgian triple, but often with more of a grainy, rustic quality, and sometimes with a spicier yeast character. Entry instructions. All right, so the vitals, IBUs, that's your international, that's literally a scientific measurement of how bitter a beer is based on the alpha acids from the hops. 20 to 35, which is actually kind of low. Well, compared to American Pale Ales and IPAs, because those usually start at about 40, 50, and most IPAs are 60 or more. SRM is the color, stands for Standard Reference Method, I believe. 5 to 14, yeah, pretty light. 15 to 22, dark. OG is original gravity. It's basically, and final gravity is FG. It's a measure of like how much sugar is in your wort. OG is like the before you ferment it, and FG is after the yeast eats it up. So you can see how the numbers drop there. And that's how you calculate the ABV. Commercial examples, well, we've seen those. All right, so I was worried this was going to be skunky, but it's not. It's just a lovely weedy kind of base, similar to a Hefeweizen without the banana. I will say it is a lovely, lovely, spicy, peppery, like peppercorn. Like if you went to like a fancy restaurant where they actually ground the peppercorn for you, it's similar to that. I think there's like a kind of a vague background of like citrus, almost like a citrus, like not like the Belgian, the wheat beers, they tend to be Curacao orange peel. This is more like bitter orange peel or some kind of like orange juice concentrate or something. It does not smell sweet. I will say that. Yeah. So this beer, to me, this just smells great. This is fantastic. So let's see what the specs say. Aroma, a pleasantly aromatic mix of fruity, spicy yeast and hops. The fruity esters are moderate to high and often have a citrus, fruit, palm fruit, or stone fruit character. Yeah, so I said, like orange peel. Palm fruit, that means like any kind of green fruit, like green apple, green pear, not green grape, but or stone fruit, which would be peach, nectarine, plum, because like the pits are like little stones or rocks. Low to moderately high spicy notes are often like black pepper, exactly what I just said, not clove. I agree. It's quite a difference between the way this smells and like a German Hefeweizen or a Weizenbock, something like that. There's a definite difference between black pepper and clove. Hops are low to moderate and have a continental character, spicy, floral, earthy, or fruity. That's the thing is also that because these beers, and especially this beer, the yeast character is so pronounced that it kind of overshadows the hops. So it's hard to pick out, hops specifically. I mean, I assume, some kind of noble hop in there, which is going to also have a peppery, spicy note. So trying to like distinguish between what is the yeast pepper and what is the hop pepper is a little difficult. And by pepper, I mean like peppercorn, not, bell pepper or, habanero, jalapeno, something like that. I mean like peppercorn. The malt is often overshadowed, but if detected is lightly grainy. Spices and herbs optional, but must not dominate. Sourness optional. I kind of disagree with that. I think if the beer is sour, it should be entered under a sour category. As far as score on this one, I'm going to go very high. I mean, I could give this a perfect 12. I'm going to start with 11. All right, so let's go to appearance. It's a little more difficult to judge at night indoors. It probably looks like a deep gold on your end. On my end, it's almost like a glowing yellow. It's certainly, a little cloudy. When I poured it, big foam on there. Just lovely golden color, carbonation just streaming. Yeah, you can see it. There you go. And lovely big soapy, foamy head. Good looking beer. Let's see what the specs say. Pale gold to deep amber in color, sometimes pale orange. Long-lasting, dense, rocky white to ivory head. Belgian lace, unfiltered, so clarity is variable, pour to good. And maybe hazy. Effervescent, yep. Darker versions can be copper, dark brown, yep. So as far as score on this one, I am going to go the full 3 out of 3. All right. Now, after 22 minutes almost, we finally get to drink this. Cheers. first thing, as soon as it hits my tongue, just huge spice on this one. Like, again, peppercorn spice, not peppers like in a hot sauce or something like that. Also strikes me as, like, as soon as it hits my tongue, it kind of like sucks all the dryness or the moisture off my tongue. It finishes, very dry. A nice, real weedy type base. Get a little more in here. Yeah, between the yeast phenols, the good phenols, and the high carbonation, this is like champagne type carbonation. So in the phenols, the dry finish, which is due to high attenuation, means the yeast ate all the beer. The yeast ate all the beer. The yeast ate all the sugar. The high carbonation, so you get like it's just a sensation of dryness. But at the same time, there's so many flavors going on in here. I'm still getting, kind of like the citrusy, bitter peel, especially orange peel, maybe a little lemon. I don't know if I'd call it grapefruit. Black peppercorn, obviously. I do not get banana, which, is pretty standard for the style. It's not supposed to be like a juicy, it's not supposed to be like a fruit salad kind of sensation. I mean, as much I love, German Hefeweizens because of the banana and clove, but the Saisons, it's a different kind of, it's a citrusy and pepper, sensation, different flavors. This is so much more dry than a Hef. I mean, it's definitely a little less weedy. I don't know if they're using oats in here or spelt or rye. There could be, there might be some rye in here. Now that I'm tasting it and now it's really like lingering, I am picking up a little bit of like a smoky aftertaste. Which I would assume I'm going to chalk that up to the age of the bottle. I've had certain homebrews and I've made certain homebrews that were infected. It was just kind of like, they just taste like baby puke or something. This is nowhere near that. This is just some kind of, which I would probably chalk up to heat damage. All right, let's go back to the specs to see what of Saison should taste like. Flavor: a balance of fruity and spicy yeast, hoppy bitterness, and grainy malt with moderate to high bitterness and a very dry finish. I agree. The fruity and spicy aspects are medium low to medium high, and hop flavor is low to medium, both with similar character as in the aroma. Same descriptors apply, although you'll find that's true of pretty much that's true of like pretty much every style everywhere, is that the aromas descriptors and the flavor descriptors, they match up, pretty much 1-to-1. Malt is low to medium with a soft, grainy palate. Very high attenuation. Yep. Never with a sweet or heavy finish. True. Bitter, spicy aftertaste. Spices and herbs optional, but if used, yeah. Sourness. I would not say there's spices in here, and it's definitely not sour. Darker versions. Well, this isn't a dark version. So, all right. So, how to score this one? I will say it's tasty, and it's not quite as good tasting as it is smelling, but I mean, it's really, really good. I mean, there's no reason not to, like, this product is a 50-point product, but this particular bottle is, less than perfect. I will probably give this about a... It's funny, now that I've taken a few more sips, I'm not getting that. I can taste it, but to me, it's, it's such a background note. I'm going to give 17 on the flavor, which is really high. Usually when it's really rare, like when I'm judging homebrew competitions, that I go like above like 13 on flavor. It just has to be like, that's a difference between home brewers and professional commercial brewers. It's really rare for a homebrewer to score 40 or higher, let alone perfect 5.0. 50. All right, so let's move on to mouthfeel. I would call that medium bodied, high carbonation. All right, mouthfeel, light to medium low body, very high carbonation. True. Effervescent, yes. Light warming alcohol optional. That's exactly what I just said. Sourness rare. Well, this isn't sour. Stronger versions can have up to medium body and be somewhat warming. Table versions have no warmth. I think I might have to dock this one a little, because I wouldn't, according to these specs, this is not a stronger version. I mean, it's a standard version at 6.5. All right, so for mouthfeel on this one, I think I'm going to go 4 out of 5. Overall impression. Now, this is, I mean, it's right there for everything. I just think that like the age of the bottle and a slight, heat damage to the bottle has brought it down a little. So, I mean, I could not, and honestly, I couldn't show this, especially there was another BJCP judge here or a Cicerone judge. I could not give them this bottle and be like, drink this. It's a perfect 50-point bottle. No, and it's not. It is mid to low 40s tops. So, overall, I would probably call this a, I think I go 8 out of 10, which is going to bring us to a final score of 43. Yeah, and I'm pretty happy with that. 43, that's a good, for me, I think that's an accurate reflection of this particular bottle. This beer is a 50-point Saison, no question about it. This particular bottle is a very good to excellent, not world-class example of the style. It's got a little age to it. It's got a little heat damage to it. Still, really tasty. Still really drinkable. And I'm not going to have any problem finishing this up. If you've watched all the way to the end, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. And I will see you guys, well, next Tuesday or whenever. All right. Bye.
Somebody brewed it. Chad just reviewed it. Thanks for watching Chad's Beer Review. Trust me, the next episode will be a lot better.